My name is Ethan, and today I'm going to tell you a completely true story. This happened many years ago to my maternal uncle. My uncle is no longer in this world, but back then he worked for the railway. One night he was called for emergency duty and had to leave home around 11 p.m. He worked in railway track maintenance, and that night he and 5 or 6 colleagues were maintaining the railway line about 2 to 3 miles away. It was winter and the area was covered in fog. By the time they finished their work, it was already 2 a.m. One of his colleagues suggested that since it was late, they should stay at a relative's house nearby and leave in the morning. Some friends agreed, but my uncle and 2 of his friends decided to go home instead. They took a shorter route to reach home quickly. As they walked, they saw a large tree, and strangely, only one branch of the tree was shaking violently, while the rest of the tree remained still. As they got closer, they saw someone sitting on the tree, shaking the branch while laughing loudly. My uncle immediately realized that it was not a human. It had to be a witch. The 3 of them stopped and hid, whispering among themselves about whether it was safe to move forward. Suddenly, the witch stopped laughing and started crying. The atmosphere became eerily silent, and then the witch jumped down from the tree. She looked straight at them but did not say anything. After a while, she climbed back up. Thinking she had not noticed them, they tried to sneak away, but after taking only 10 steps, they heard loud laughter from the tree. Then, in English, the witch said, "Do you think I haven't seen you? I have been listening to your heartbeat for a long time." Hearing this, my uncle and his friends were terrified. They felt they would not survive. In desperation, they ran as fast as they could. However, one of their friends fell, and the witch immediately pounced on him. My uncle and his other friend could not stop to help. They kept running and finally reached their town. At home, their condition was terrible. When my grandmother asked what had happened, they told her everything. The next morning, townspeople went to the spot to investigate but found nothing unusual. However, they heard dogs fighting in the nearby bushes. When they checked, they discovered a corpse with a torn open chest being eaten by dogs. Seeing this, one of the men screamed. When the others gathered, no one dared to pull the body out, but eventually, under the town head's orders, they retrieved it and took it to the deceased's family. Weeks passed. One night, my uncle had a dream that the witch had killed his other friend too. He told my grandmother about the dream, and she immediately went to see a spiritual healer who was also a relative. The healer examined some rice that my grandmother had brought and told her that an old witch's spirit was after her son and wanted to kill him. My grandmother was terrified and begged the healer to save her son. The healer gave her 2 sacred threads and a small bottle of holy water. She first went to my uncle's surviving friend's house. As soon as she arrived, she heard loud noises, sometimes crying, sometimes laughing. The friend's mother was already terrified because another healer had told her that her son didn't have much time left. But my grandmother insisted she give him the holy water and tie the sacred thread. With the help of some neighbors, they managed to restrain him and followed the instructions. After drinking the water, he calmed down. Meanwhile, at home, my uncle was being watched over by his sisters and neighbors. When my grandmother returned, my uncle suddenly jumped out of bed and tried to run. He growled like an animal and moved wildly. The neighbors tried to stop him, but he couldn't escape as my grandmother blocked the only exit. Seeing her, he became frightened and started hiding. My grandmother picked up a stick and threatened to beat him if he didn't come near her. He laughed maniacally, his eyes rolled back, and he started cursing her. The neighbors held him down while my grandmother quickly tied the sacred thread around his hand and made him drink the holy water. Immediately after, he collapsed and fell asleep. 2 days later, in the middle of the night, a group of my uncle's friends knocked on my grandmother's door. They said that Michael, the friend who had been attacked by the witch, had run away from his house. Despite the townspeople's efforts, he was nowhere to be found. My grandmother suspected that he had gone back to the place where they had seen the witch. The townspeople, now aware of the situation, gathered about 40 to 50 people with torches and weapons and went to the tree. Among them were 3 or 4 spiritual healers. They expected the worst for Michael, but were determined to destroy the witch. As they neared the tree, they saw the witch standing on a branch, staring at them. At her feet lay Michael's lifeless body, blood dripping down to the ground. The townspeople were horrified, but held their ground. The healers began chanting, and the townspeople surrounded the tree with torches. The witch did not attack, but she screamed and occasionally moved lower before retreating back up. The chanting continued for 30-40 minutes until a strong storm suddenly blew out all their torches. The wind was so powerful that everyone was scattered. When the storm passed, the healer told them that the witch was now temporarily trapped in the tree, but would not remain there forever. To permanently bind her, they would need a stronger healer. The townspeople carried Michael's body back to his family. After that night, they made preparations to deal with the witch once and for all.